What's going on, guys? My name's Ray, and today we're checking out 5 reasons why you should play a headless guitar. So what's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Today we're going to be talking about something that I've had a huge itch for and a huge craving and a huge, I'm on a huge headless guitar kick. And today I want to talk about 5 reasons why I really like playing them and you should consider playing them as well. 2 things. First off, if you're brand new to my channel, thank you so much for joining me. If you want to consider hitting that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. Second off, this video is not geared towards any sort of company or I am not affiliated with anybody. This is just something I wanted to do because I'm really passionate about headless guitars lately. So starting off with number 1 is they're lightweight. Now playing long shows and standing up with like a huge chunk of wood hanging over your left or right shoulder is, that's all well and good, but after a while, man, it really starts to wear on you, and so that weight problem can be an issue, right? I mean, even people like Eric Clapton, one of the greats, is having back problems now in his later years in life because he had heavy guitars hanging off his body for a long period of time, and now it's starting to show. But with headless guitars, man, they're very lightweight, and there's a couple reasons why. First thing, no headstock. That's the obvious reason, and when there's no headstock, it doesn't have the tendency to neck dive, right? So that lack of weight on that little piece of wood for the headstock completely gone, that cuts out some of the weight. And another reason why they're so lightweight is because there's really not much added to the body. They're very ergonomic and there's a lot of design put into the actual body where a lot of the wood is taken away where it's not needed, right? Which is a nice segue into number 2. They are ergonomic. Now I have 2 Strandbergs and I've tried a Kiesel headless once, and I'm trying to get a Legador 6-string Ghost on this channel as well. But all these bodies are relatively the same, and they're all very ergonomic. Now I use my Strandbergs for an example. They can be played in the classical style as well as the traditional style, and they both have contours on the body for such. But then when you're playing live and you throw a strap on, the guitar sits in the exact same position as the classical style, and it's a very familiar spot, and you're good to go. Number 3. Now I don't know if this is true for all headless guitars, but this is just something from my personal experience, is the tuning stability is very good. And I have a theory for why. At the end of the guitar, at the beginning of the nut and where the headstock would be on traditional guitars, there's a locking nut system on almost all of the headless guitars that I've come across. So if you think about it, it's almost like a Floyd Rose type of system with a locking nut, right? I mean, you cut the strings off and then you clamp them down with an Allen key and they don't move. And then on the actual tuners, especially with the Strandbergs, again, I'm using Strandbergs as the main baseline for this video. The tuning keys are very hard to turn, and you actually need a wrench to tune them. And I don't know if that's for every single headless guitar out there, but I found that when the tuning keys are actually really hard to turn, the guitar doesn't go out of tune and your strings aren't going anywhere. Number 4 is they're becoming relatively cool, and it's a sign of the times. Now I'll tell you a little story about my personal life. So when I first started playing, my father had a subscription to Musician's Friend, I believe, or they sent it in the mail, whatever. I used to get it regularly, and he would flip through it and look at all the stuff, and he hated the Steinberger, whatever. It was like the guitar that Eddie Van Halen played on Live Without a Net and a few other times. That guitar, it was so ugly in his eyes, and it wasn't what Jimmy Page played, or what I mean, it wasn't what Hendrix played, and he absolutely hated it because it didn't have a headstock and it looked weird. And so now that 20 years later, 25 years later, however long that's been, now headless guitars are some of the heavy hitters in the guitar industry now. Guys like Tosin Abasi and Misha Mansour and Pearl Nilsson and Lee McKinney, some of these guys all play, headless guitars, man, and it's awesome now that headless guitars at one point in time, 20 years ago, were a joke, but now they're becoming part of the mainstream and people are gravitating towards them. The dad rock era is kind of going away, and Les Pauls. I'm an old guy at heart. I love Les Pauls and Fenders, but you know, I'm on a huge kick again for headless guitars, and it's a sign of the times, like, hey, headless guitars are like the new in thing, right? And lastly, number 5 is they're adaptable. Now when I say they're adaptable, I'm talking about the companies. Now I don't know this for a fact, this is just what I'm putting 2 and 2 together. This is my own personal opinion, but it seems like companies that make headless guitars, for the most part, also make, you know, a different variety of guitars. And what I mean is that they're not stuck to the same thing over and over again. I use Gibson. I use Gibson as a perfect example for this. The Les Paul has not changed really since like the 60s. I mean, yes, they had some different, you know, wiring things and, you know, push-pull pots and, you know, what have you, but the actual model itself has not changed since they had the SG body and then went back to the Les Paul, you know, style again, and that was like 62, maybe something like that, 61, and you know, so it's been the exact same. But a brand like Kiesel, or even Strandberg, I mean, Strandberg just dropped their classic series, but they have the metal series, they have the Pearl Nilsson signature model with a true temperament, I mean, they have the fusion stuff, they have all different varieties, and it's cool how like they offer different pickups and they offer different styles. It's like, it seems like, you know, brands are gravitating towards headless stuff because they're giving variety to the player and it's more attractive. Players aren't locked down to having this model and this model only and they're just gonna run with it for the next 50 years. Things change and it's awesome that companies allow the option to have headless guitars, 1, but 2, have headless guitars and then have different variety of headless guitars. Again, I'm not speaking for any company per se, I'm just putting 2 and 2 together. This is my own conclusion based on what I've seen over the last, give or take 4 years. So that is my 5 reasons for why I play headless guitars. If you have a headless guitar and I didn't mention one of the reasons why you like to play it, leave it all down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. And also too, if you've played a headless guitar and you don't like it, leave that down below as well. I really want to get a nice discussion down below in the comments and it'd be awesome to hear from you guys. Again, if you're brand new, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this video. Follow me on Instagram at StayMetalRay. Stay metal, my dudes, and I'll see you guys next time.